last 3 years, I have studied Drama Applied Theatre and Education at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. The course has included a number of prospects that have heavily influenced my progress as a writer who specialises in comedy. The writing for performance segments of the course are not particularly tailored towards comedians, though there is a great variety of lecturers and guest lecturers who have visited. I can only recall 2 sessions where comedy was at the forefront of discussion. Considering that comedy is one of the biggest forms or genres of theatre and performance in the UK, I was disheartened to find it so seldomly throughout my higher education. I and many others believe comedy is an incredibly important tool that can be used to tackle important issues and affect social change. Comedy can change how we think and even how we act. O'Hara, 2016. To dismiss comedy as not important or expecting its effect on audiences or creators to be limited is not only funny in itself, but also untrue. Comedy is a social activity, a conversation. Mary O'Hara says, "There is something particularly special about being a part of the shared experience that is live comedy, that curious alchemy that occurs when people come together specifically to laugh." But I'd argue that this isn't all that happens here. Through comedy, we have the power to address so many more issues: politics, injustice, power. Comedy can also act as a reprieve for those going through difficult times. During my writing seminars and lectures, we would often do writing exercises. When made to share our work, mine would often be scoffed at or thought of as less than because it attempted comedy. I felt misunderstood and ashamed to share work because I didn't want to conform to the typical emotive, linear structures we were encouraged to write. The course itself, named Writing for Performance, was also advertised to include opportunities that it did not, one of which being the opportunity to create films. As someone who had created comedic films before, I wanted to advance my skills in doing so. I was then told I was not allowed to write a film. And then, at that point, I was told that this was strictly a playwriting degree, not writing for performance. Along with this, the students on the DATE pathway were given the opportunity to write films. I tried to transfer onto the DATE pathway and I was told that I could not. This was frustrating for me as I felt I missed out on the chance to show off my abilities and get a good grade, as well as educate myself and improve my skills. I believe that this has limited my progression as a comedy writer. In a time where technology is increasingly popular, social media platforms are being used to frequently share creative work. I think that having the opportunity to explore a wider variety of mediums for performance, such as radio or film, would have expanded my horizons as a comedy writer instead of limiting them to one conventional way to make work. This said, there have been a number of projects through my time at Central that have helped my confidence as a comedy writer. Some of the projects I have made or been involved with have helped me refine my methods of creating work and allowed me to identify and improve my writing style. Writing my play All Is Vanity was a pivotal part of my journey as a comedic writer at Central. The play was written and inspired by Central itself and the archetypes of people I've come across while studying here. It was a complete satire, mocking the traits, language and characteristics of people I knew that my audiences would recognise. Using comedy, my play was able to tackle some of the issues I and many others have faced while at drama school. It was a social commentary, however satirical and exaggerated. It showed an acting student who thought of herself as better than the rest of the characters, the DATE student who couldn't get a word in edgeways, and the PA student who spoke in riddles, and the lecturer who simply walked across the stage, too busy to say a word to any of them. I enjoyed creating this piece so much. It was incredibly well received by the majority of my audience. My tutor, Judith Johnson, was really supportive with my writing and said, "People will be too embarrassed to admit that any of the characters are inspired by them. So that will prevent you from facing any backlash." This scratch piece of writing led me to continue the piece into a full-length play, and I am now adapting it for screen, as I feel it will be more accessible to my audiences. Last year, I did my writing residency at the Hastings Museum. I chose Hastings because I think Hastings is a characterful place, and as a character-based comedy writer, I thought this place would suit me just fine. I did enjoy my residency, but didn't feel my play was taken particularly seriously. I wrote about a woman who I'd met at the museum and was poking fun at the strange local traditions, the tea and deportment ceremony. I feel like my play was a comedy and not intended. I feel like because my play was a comedy and not intended for a specific community or a particular community, its purpose was misunderstood. I enjoyed the project and would definitely write in residence again, at a place I find particularly funny, even though I didn't get a good grade for my time in residence. This is not to say that my writing experience in the past 3 years has been limited to creating linear script for performance. I have also been able to progress and experiment in songwriting. My exposure to this form of writing started during my first year practical project, where we created a musical piece of children's theatre to perform in Swindon. Working with musical director Neil Carter on this project helped me hone my skills as a musician, and then go on and create my own musical comedies. Although the songs we wrote during the Swindon project were not necessarily comedic, working with Neil gave me the confidence to attempt to write comedic songs and musicals in the future. As a neurodiverse non-academic, I have never been able to grasp the concept of conventional music writing, i.e. reading and writing music with a score. When I was younger, I had been told that it wasn't worth me continuing piano lessons as I wasn't able to grasp any of the theory, and I was told it would be worth me trying to find a different hobby. Instead, I taught myself the guitar and the piano in an unconventional way, listening to what sounded right and using my memory. Thankfully, Neil worked in the same way and told me that you didn't need to be able to do any of that in order to create successful music and teach it to others. This project and my work with Neil inspired me to create 2 more musical performances throughout my degree, B-Show and Nothing Kills a Roach. In this industry, there is an elitism when it comes to musicians. Those under the stage playing the scores of Sondheim and Lloyd Webber are classically trained and well paid. Those singing and acting on the prestigious stages of the West End are well versed in reading music since their training at conservatoires. These are the musicians we, as audience members, are in awe of and most often exposed to. Whereas those who create their own musical work, often in less traditional processes, are not viewed in the same league. I want to use my experiences in the last 3 years to try and create more work at a high standard on a smaller stages or spaces. I want to use my own all-over-the-place methods of devising and teaching musical performance to prove to audiences that conventionality is not synonymous with quality. However, how something is made should not affect how it is viewed or received. When we were allocated the Road Safety and Horniman Museum project for collaborative outreach, we were mocked. There was a discourse throughout the year group that this was set to be the worst project. But with my group, instead of complaining, we got really excited. I felt like this was an excellent excuse to use comedy and get a bit silly. I completely believe that comedy performance is applied theatre, and comedy is such an important way to educate and entertain. Though we were discouraged from working with our friends, we stuck together and it completely worked in our favour. We were all passionate about doing well, fitting our brief, and creating something memorable. But we also knew that we could have fun with it and make it our own. Our own turned out to be dressing up as bees and clowning around to ridiculous, self-written songs about pollution, climate change, and shaking your bum. The show was a complete success, and we were invited back to the Horniman as paid performers to do the show again. This project taught me that children's theatre is not just for children, but for the adults accompanying the children. The script was a balance of children's education and entertainment, riddled with innuendos and jokes for the adults. When researching other educational performances and television shows for children, I found that there was so much you could get away with as a writer. Through the subtext and hidden jokes, there was so much comedic material in these performances. Children's entertainment, educational or otherwise, is comedy. I never thought I would enjoy writing children's theatre, but this project gave me the confidence and enjoyment to make me want to write children's theatre again. Nothing Kills a Roach was my only opportunity at Central to have complete creative control over my writing, without a brief or any limits. We had 20 minutes to do whatever the hell we wanted, and I feel this was probably the highlight of my degree. The team I worked with for B-Show continued on together to create another musical comedy, this time for adults. This piece really helped me find the people who I will continue to work with in the future. We were headed to the Edinburgh Fringe, Hastings Fringe and Brighton Fringe with our show this year. Obviously, because of COVID, none of this was able to happen. So, in waiting for the next Fringe Festival to go ahead, I've been applying for jobs at supermarkets. Not being able to continue creating work and applying for creative jobs is obviously inhibiting my opportunities as a writer. However, it is quite funny that I chose the year that the world ended to graduate my degree. By writing and performing, my comedy has built my self-esteem, and I think it can help others build their self-esteem too. I believe it can also help people with communication skills and literacy skills. Comic and psychiatric nurse Rob Gee takes comedy workshops into schools for these exact reasons. Using the facilitation skills the course has taught me, along with my knowledge of comedy and improvisation, I would like to take similar workshops around schools. Comedy is important and beneficial. Comedy is applied theatre, and I want to change people's perspective on its importance. I'm going to end with a quote. The idea that comedy could be therapeutic or give people skills seems absurdly worthy, but that's exactly what I've been trying to do. I believe that comedy can and should be used as applied theatre. It can act as therapy for both the performers and the audiences. Using what I have learned at Central in the last 5 years, I am to take my comedy writing further and to a wider variety of audiences. Judith Ackroyd said that applied theatre now delineates a restricted and exclusive type of radical practice enshrined in an evangelical frame. And if that is the case, and the form is evolving, then I completely believe comedy should be used as a tool for betterment and positive change. I feel my time at Central has assisted my progression and improvement as a comedy writer accidentally. Where comedy was absent from the curriculum or disapproved of as applied theatre, I have still come a long way. The people I have met have inspired me to create comedic characters. The course is against comedy, but has helped me as a comedy writer. I have been inspired by people creating overly serious work, Legs Akimbo's style. The course has helped me find a funny group of people I can create comedic work with. My experiences have helped me find my niche or genre of comedy writing. Unfortunately, due to COVID, my projects are all on hold. I am aiming to keep the creative momentum and continue with them in the near future.